Nice to see you. Well, let's start with the big game on Sunday. You had a great result against West Ham a couple of weeks ago, and now Nottingham Forest on Sunday. How important is it for Leeds United that you pick up points against the teams around you?
Yes, I think at this stage of the season, you shouldn't interpret too much into the fixtures, because in the end, if it would be whatever, game day 36, and there is a team who is around us anyhow, you could interpret more into it. So you never know where Nottingham, for example, will be at the end of the season. Last season they qualified for Europe. Could also be that, in a few months' time they are in mid-table or even close to where they finished last season. So for that, I wouldn't interpret too much into it. It's just another opportunity to win points. So on this level, as the newly promoted side, you always have to be at the best, at the top of your game, in order to give yourself a chance to win some points. It's the same right now. Away at Nottingham is a difficult fixture for us, so we have to prepare in the best possible way, and then to try to win as many points as possible. Of course, each every point that you win on this level is huge. In the end, you need probably 9 wins in order to stay in this league. We are on 3 wins. We're on a good path, but we know 3 wins won't be enough. We need to win more games, and additionally, you also need 9 or 10 draws. Yeah, we are on 2 draws. We also need to add a few more draws. So each and every point counts, and for that, it's another opportunity for us to win some points. But I'm also sure that Nottingham and Sean also will want to win the points. So I expect also a tight game, complicated game, but we want to be back to our best again.
This time of year, Daniel, it gets a bit darker, a bit colder. Little children start thinking about Christmas. Football fans start thinking about the January transfer window. So I'm going to ask you, we are away, but are you thinking at all about January, and you're looking to strengthen? You came close to bringing in an extra body or 2 in the summer. Have you already started to think a little bit about potentially strengthening when the window opens?
To think perhaps, but not to speak about it, because I had to speak about the last transfer window for 4 months, and right now there will be the time, whatever, after Christmas also. Then of course we're allowed also to speak a bit more about it during January, but not right now. We are focused on our group. We have a good group together, and I can't waste 1% of my energy right now to speak about other things, and just to make sure that with this group that we have at least till the 1st of January, that we are as competitive as possible, and there are so many games coming up, so we are fully focused.
Is it fair to say, finally, if you were going to bring in one player, say for example, would it be an attack?
Focus is Nottingham, and we worry about these topics perhaps a bit later in the year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could you give us an update on Dominic Calvert-Lewin? You said he was struggling with a quad injury. Is he going to be available?
Yes, it's actually an adductor injury, so a little adductor strain. Will be a tight race, so we will make a late call. He's doing his re-up, is progressing well, but was not in team training yet. We still have a couple of more days, but we won't take any risks. So it will be a late decision if he travels with us or not. He's a question mark. Little question mark behind Sebastian Bonneau. He got a hit against his MCL during this week. Also missed the training session, so little question mark behind his availability. But all the others are fine and ready to go.
And Willie Gnonto?
Yes, Willie was out for quite a long time, I would say, with calf problems, and then with hernia surgery on both sides. He's meanwhile back in team training since 2 full weeks. It's good. You can see him growing. He's growing each and every day. He's back. He's also available and ready for selection. We'll see if we take. It's not a risk anymore because he's back in training. But if it's enough for him to be involved right now, already before this game, definitely then. With 100% also after the international break. But there's also a chance that he could be picked up also for this game. Yes.
Whether it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin who starts up front or you have to go with another option, there's been some concern that perhaps your striker has been left a little isolated. What's the key to providing them with more support in order to hopefully get those all-important goals?
Well, we are a newly promoted side, and you wouldn't expect for a newly promoted side to be able to create as many chances like whatever perhaps Man City does for Erling Haaland. Of course, it's always a bit easier for a striker to play a side who is just dominating game after game, but our strikers are fully aware in which position we are, and for us, we just have one target. Anyhow, we don't want to win the Gold Boot during the season. We just want to win the Golden Prize for all of us to stay in this league, and for that, of course, each and every striker wants to score goals. I was a striker myself, and you need also this greediness that you want to score and want also a good personal tally in order to add end product. There's no doubt about this. But the main thing is that we are successful as a team, and Dominic, for example, has helped a lot. Of course, also with the goal who won us 3 points, exactly like also Lucas Metzger goal, for example, won us 3 points against Everton. Of course, it's crucial, but I don't judge my players and also not my offensive players just by their goals and assists. So also their workload is quite important, and for that, I'm quite happy what they have delivered. They played their part also in the last games. I think in the last game in Brighton, it's fair to say that we were in creating chances, not at our best. And I've criticized this also a little bit straight after the game. But overall, I think we have scored several goals, also created many good chances. Could have been a bit more clinical also in a few situations. Also Dominic, for example, could have been a bit more clinical. But overall, I'm very happy what he delivers with his experience, with his all-round game anyhow. And again, for us, just one topic is important. This is where we are in the table with the team, and not too much where my strikers are in the striker table.
Albeit that, yes, you need the strikers to be clinical. Is the onus perhaps more on the wingers and your midfield to perhaps be a little braver, to be more willing to get forward to support whoever is up front?
I'm not sure. I wouldn't label us as not brave, and also not that we don't create enough. When I think about our last games, West Ham, we've scored 2 goals, could have scored a few more, also like the away games, even at Brighton anyhow. So we were brave and had more possession and brought the game. Not after, I think the starting period was definitely not our best, but from minute 15 till 65, we brought the game a lot into the opponent's half. So to have more possession than Brighton in the home game as newly promoted side is not too bad. It's also a sign of you go for it and not like you just try to park the bus. I think in this game it's fair to say that we were not creative enough anyhow, but I couldn't label it in the games before, because we have created so many chances, even last away game at Burnley. So if you have a look on what we have created and which type of chances we have missed, when I think about Brennan's big chance, about Jaden Bogle's big chance, Joel chances, Lucas chances, so we can't speak about we were not brave enough and didn't create enough. So my feeling was we have created for a newly promoted side many chances, could have been in a few more games a bit more clinical. Yes, and away at Brighton, that's a fair assessment, and I think we were there not at our best in terms of creation, but this is also what happens sometimes over the course of 38 game days, that you have sometimes, especially in difficult away game, and for that, it's not too much I want to criticize too much.
Finally, for me, given the difficulty of the fixtures that lie ahead, is this, if not a must-win game, certainly not a must-not-lose game away at Forest?
It's more or less, I think, game day 11 and 7th time in the press conference I'm asked if it's a must-win game. I can give you always the same answer anyhow if you want. So each and every game is an opportunity for a newly promoted side. Not one game against the established Premier League side is a must-win game, especially not in away game. Perhaps on game day 38, if you need to win the game or need to win the 3 points. What we want to achieve is, in the end, at least 9 wins. What we want to achieve is a point average of 1 point per game. And if I win this in away game at Nottingham, or home game against West Ham, or away game at Liverpool, or home game against Man City, I don't mind. I'm just addicted anyhow to win that many games that we need in order to stay in this league, and for that I'm not willing to overinterpret too much in a game day. On game day 11 will be the same for Nottingham. They will also speak about a home game against the newly promoted side, must win game. And what happens if you don't win the game? Then you keep going and make sure that you try to win the next game. So for that, of course, we want to win each and every game. There is no doubt about this, and also in this game. And if we can't win it, yes, then like you said, we want to make sure that we don't don't lose it, and of course. But this is what also the opponent wants to do, and for that, I wouldn't overinterpret too much into a fixture on game day 11.
Thank you.
Hi, Daniel. The Brighton game aside, are you happy with the performances, if not the points pick up away from home?
Performances, yes, because apart from the Arsenal game, I think we should have 1 point in each and every game. But to rate the performance efficiency is also a topic anyhow, and for that I think we could have been a bit more efficient, especially in using our chances a bit more clinical. So we could have won a few more points. What I'm happy and pleased with is that we've shown more or less in each every game that we are competitive on this level, and we 100% belong to this level. So there were, for newly promoted sides in former years, several question marks, and some of them had to wait for the first win, for example, pretty long. So not us. We won the game on the first game day. We are already on 3 wins. Overall, I think we're on a good path, but this doesn't lead to any complacency or not that we are over the moon anyhow. We know with just 11 points we won't stay in this league, so we have to keep going. It's not that we fall asleep and are enjoying ourselves too much. We also speak about what we can improve. After the last game at Brighton, I think was not really happy with our starting period. I think also cutback defending was something we could have done better, and also to be a bit better in possession in terms of creating chances. But that also after a win against West Ham, several topics I spoke about and I wanted to better. So I haven't seen so far a perfect game from us, and for that there's always space for improvement also in performances.
And by your own admission, in terms of the target, 10 games, 11 points, you are whereabouts you need to be to stay in this league. So there's a lot of, there might be a lot of negativity from the outside, but inside the group, there must be a lot of positivity of how you started this Premier League campaign.
Yes, but that's also quite normal for such an emotional club like Leeds United. If you're not league leaders, then there's always a bit concerns or whatever. You know how this club is. After each every win, everyone is over the moon and speaks about Europe, and after each every loss, everyone is feeling about League Two. So for us, it's just important anyhow that we are on a good path, that we are already, like you said, on 11 points, that we are already on 3 wins. We were not one time under the line in terms of relegation battle. And this is a good thing to say as a newly promoted side. But that doesn't mean that we are 100% happy, because there were already a few games where we could have won more points. There were a few games where we could have performed a bit better, Brighton, for example, and for that we are always balanced. We are fully focused. We are aware that with this group we have a chance to stay in this league, and this is why we are so greedy and desperate also to win more games and more points and to improve each and every game day.
And just one final one from me. In terms of strikers, there's been a lot of talk about the forward players. With the forward players potentially not scoring as many goals as you'd like, is there a responsibility for the rest of the team to chip in?
Of course. So we take each and every goal. So it's important that our defensive players, Joe Rodon, for example, has stepped up and scores goals. Pretty happy that Noah Okafor, for example, also has delivered end products, and also other players. So again, we don't want to win the Golden Boot. My strikers are also invited and allowed to score. There's no doubt about this. And of course, they have a better chance to score a goal than my fullbacks, for example, because they're closer, or hopefully closer to the opponent's goal. So for that, yes, the responsibility is, of course, then also there a bit more on the offensive players to score. But we need also goals from midfield. We need goals like Anton Stach, for example, has delivered. We need goals from defensive players like Joe Rodon. And whenever we've done this, and we've won games, and for that, everyone of my players is invited also to chip in with goals. Yes.
Thank you. Great.
Hi Daniel, you said you expect a complicated game against Forest. I'm sure all games are complicated, but what are the complications specifically from Forest and Sean Dyche?
First of all, Forest, it's a side with these players. Of course, they had a few outgoings, but also really, really good quality incomings, I have to say. They were able to qualify for Europe, and we don't have to speak about the quality of the players. I think they have high individual quality in all positions, in all options. So for me, it's definitely a side who can deliver top performances on this level and win many points. And last season has has proved this, and I think they have the quality in order to be in this region. There's no doubt about this. Of course, there was lots of ongoing and lots of noise outside, but then also like a very experienced manager like Sean Dyche. I think with his experience, he will bring also a calmness more or less into this group. And when this comes together, high quality players and also a manager who is experienced and brings calmness, and is always normally a good setup to win many points. So we want to make sure that this doesn't start more or less like it has started before. They had also good results, also good first win under him. But we want to make sure that this doesn't happen in the league on the weekend, because we want to win the points. But it's definitely a side who will, under Sean, be very competitive and also then deliver definitely honest work, and they will be on it against the newly promoted side to win the home game. So for that, I expect, like you said, a complicated game, but every game day on this level is complicated. So for that, we have to be on it. But if we play to our strength, then we also will have a chance.
You spoke about what the team could have done better at Brighton. After 10 games back in the Premier League yourself, what's your self-assessment of how it's gone, and are there things you think that you could have done better or differently over the first 10 games?
To be honest, it's so busy at the moment. I'm not too much in the reflection mode. I do this always during the international breaks, or perhaps in the summer break, so in the ongoing process. It's not like you look back too much and judge what you've done so far. Either proud or a bit disappointed or whatever. So as a manager, you have to be there with decisions more or less each every day. Lots of decisions, bags of decisions, what to train, which formation to choose, what training sessions, how your next team meeting looks like, how the speech is a bit more concentrated on the contents, a bit more emotional. And you have to take many, many decisions. And if I'm honest, all of us are there in each every week with wrong decisions and also many mistakes. You just have to make sure that you're there, hopefully with more positive than negative decisions. So what I can improve and had improved and where there were mistakes, I could name many things anyhow. So, but this is something that happens, I would say, to each every manager. And for that, I'm just concentrated to take the right decisions also for the upcoming game against Nottingham in order to win even more points than we have already.
Hi, Daniel. Just on Dan James, I know you've said he's been progressing well in terms of his fitness. I'm just wondering, how close are you to being confident to starting Dan in terms of his fitness?
Yes, in terms of his fitness, I would say. Meanwhile, he's also back and able to start the game. Yes, we have lots of competition because we also need in the offense, of course, players who can deliver end products and can chip in, but also to make sure that we find always a good balance between creators and also players who are perhaps a bit more straightforward in order to use perhaps either to their pace or to score themselves anyhow. And yes, for that it's always like quite often we have more or less one winger who is a bit more straightforward and attacks also with his pace or with dribbling the box, and perhaps one more player who is also capable to deliver some assists. And for that we always need for each every game to find a good balance. So I would say Daniel, for example, fits to several of our winger types, but also not to each and every one of it. And for that, it's always like to find the balance who starts also in the game. And yes, he has all chances to impress in training. He has all chances to use his chances when he comes on. And then we always try to find the good balance and the right decisions also on the winger positions.
Thank you. Dominic and Lucas have both, when the ball's gone up to them, they brought the ball down really well and managed to offload it to the wings quite well. But it does feel sometimes that in the space around him, once they brought the ball down, there isn't as much support. And I know you referenced the other day that you brought Brendan into the centre to sort of help with that. Is that something that you've been working on in training, in terms of once the ball's been brought down, that Dominic or Lucas does have direct support behind them?
Yes, of course. It's always important that you can create close to your striker. This is what I meant, for example, when we speak about wingers. So it's sometimes a bit difficult to play with two wingers who both like just to be wide anyhow, because at least one winger should be a bit closer to the striker. So for that, it's a bit difficult sometimes to play with two wingers who are very, very similar and just both stay wide, because then it's also for the central midfield a bit difficult to support it also in a proper way. But it's definitely something, yes, what we want and need to use. But I wouldn't label it overall a problem, because otherwise we wouldn't have scored against West Ham 2 goals and should have scored more. Otherwise, we wouldn't have created so many chances that we did, for example, away at Burnley. Otherwise, we wouldn't have scored 3 goals against Wolves. At Brighton was definitely the case that we were a bit too reluctant in order to be closer to our striker. That's definitely a fact, but I wouldn't label it as an overall problem. Again, as a newly promoted side, it's normal that you can't dominate each and every game, and sometimes also you have to overplay perhaps intense pressing for the opponent into a physical strike, and then it's also a bit difficult then always to be close and to support. So for that, again, it's definitely a topic that we want to be spot on, but it's also not that easy for a newly promoted side always to be in each of the topic then perfect, like we were, for example, also last season when we scored 100 goals.
Hi, Daniel. We probably know how it's going to feel at kick-off on Sunday. It's a very loud, passionate fan base at the City Ground. They've got a lot of reasons for optimism. Sean Dyche brings with him security, stability, a good record in the Premier League, the optimism of a new manager and moving things forward with the results hopefully to come. They haven't quite turned yet. So we know it's going to be bouncing, in other words. We know they've got a very, very good squad. You'll know that. It's a top half squad as of last season, playing European football. So coming into it, as the manager of the visiting team, how do you either harness that energy or limit it in some way, or try and match that optimism? Because they're going to be all guns blazing, and how do you and the team ride that out and turn it in your favour?
First of all, to enjoy the challenge. This is what I've said more or less in my first meeting once we spoke about Nottingham. I described it exactly like you did, Baron. More or less like exactly this atmosphere and what will happen also in this game, and told them, listen, we have to enjoy this challenge. This is why you once started to play football games. You want to be involved in this game. The best scenario is always home game, Elland Road, because it's a second to none. It's a very unique experience, and it's a joy to be allowed to play in front of this home fans. But the second best scenario is a very hostile away ground. So me as a player, I rather play it when the whole stadium is against you and you can rise to the challenge, instead of you play in a stadium where it doesn't matter anyhow. And for that, I told them, listen, it's important that we enjoy this challenge, are not in a way impressed or whatever, scared or something like this. So it's more like in this type of games, you can show also your character and that you're capable to show some steel and whatever. And it's a great challenge, and I would back my squad that we also will enjoy this challenge. And for that, I don't want to change too much of the atmosphere. I also like want to go there and also want to enjoy this away challenge. And if you're capable, and then in this circumstances, then to grind out a result. This is sometimes more or less one of the best games in the season. And for that, yes, we want, of course, are highly motivated to show this and then also to play our football and to play our style and try to be as dominant as possible in as many periods as possible.
I think based on your comments and the way many of us might feel in here, that of the 10 games, there's probably only been 2, Arsenal and Brighton, where the team's been outclassed. It's been a very, very difficult afternoon, and the prospect of result has seemed quite slim throughout. So you've generally, I think most of us would agree, have played pretty well across those 8 games in varying phases. So you're in a good place, at least performance-wise. You look at the fixture list, though, and you probably forgive our questions when we ask, is it a must-win game? Because you look at the context of what's to come, be it at home to Aston Villa, which, of course, is an eminently winnable fixture at Elland Road. But we know after that we've got the 3 of the top 6 across a 7-day period. And so without playing particularly badly, the fixtures and the way they fall means that it could spiral in some ways quite quickly if the results don't go away, and I'm sure you'll do everything in your power to stop that from happening. But do you understand the context of why Sunday is more important because of what's to come, and how quickly the narrative will, can change?
Yes, this is why we also were not over the moon just with good performances, because we were also self-critical and said, listen, if you play well, you have to make sure that in these fixtures you need to pick up points, because there are also sometimes games when you're not at your best, and it's quite normal when you have 38 game days, or when you face an opponent where you have to say after the game, okay, they were sadly too good for us. We have to accept this today, this loss, because away at Arsenal, they were the better side. And on this game day, when Arsenal is at their best and super effective, then it was tough for us to win any points. That's definitely a fact. But the problem is you just can't choose. Just because we haven't won already 5 or 6 more points, and it's more like then you say, come on, then you have to win the next fixture. And to be honest, it's more or less like, I also wouldn't label it, yes, I know we face also at some point then Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, I think even within 7 days. But I don't judge in the way, why shouldn't we win some points there? So I had more or less the same scenario once we played here Newcastle, Champions League side, new signings. They've just signed my German fella, Nick Woltemade, for I'm not sure how much money. Everyone said, they will outclass you, no chance. I think we won 1 point, and we were even closer to win this game, and instead of Newcastle was able to win it. Or I also got the feeling against Tottenham, for example, home game, also in normally in a good position and fighting for the Champions League. No one expected us but to be there, but we dominated many periods of this game, and should have won some points. I don't see why this should not happen, for example, against Liverpool or against Man City or against Chelsea or teams of this caliber. So if you want to take part in the Premier League, it's not like, okay, come on, then against the top 5 or top 6, you lose all the games, and then you have to make sure that against whatever newly promoted sides you win games. If you would have asked me before the season, you normally would have said, okay, Nottingham is one of the most difficult fixtures because they've qualified for Europe. Right now, they didn't have perhaps the best start out of whatever reasons. And then to speak about, okay, it's a must-win game. So I don't see this. So for me, it's more or less like you take each and every game like it is. And perhaps you're also sometimes lucky and you play one of the top sides who are there just after a Champions League game. Perhaps they rotate a little bit, and out of a sudden you have a chance. And for that, I take points out of each and every game. And of course, I want to win the points. And the problem is, Sean Dyche and Nottingham wants it as well. They will also speak about, okay, if not a home game against a newly promoted side, where should we then win the points? So it's for both teams always the same, but just one team can win it, or perhaps there's a draw. So for that, it's important that you make sure that you deliver a top performance, and if there is a chance, come on, grab yourself the reward, and if not, then you draw a line and you keep going. This is how a marathon, and the Premier League is a marathon, works. Of course, everything would be a bit easier if you would win 3 points, because it's always easier then. But if not, then we also keep going, and we are even after that still above the line and still on 11 points after 11 games. I would rather be there with 40 points after 11 games. But we haven't achieved anything if we win it. And the race is not over if we lose it. So, yes, we are highly motivated. We are desperate. We won't give 1% less because we are not motivated. But it's also important that you don't overdo it and you don't lose the nerves and you don't panic and you stay also composed and calm. And whatever happens on Sunday, the world will go on, and there is still a chance for Nottingham and also for us.
Thank you. Sure. And given what you've just said, Daniel, how important is it that that's reflected in the players that you've recruited and the players that you've retained? Because obviously squads are made up of all different types of human beings, but do you need a group who all think the same way in that respect?
It's decisive. This is why I wanted to sign during this season just players who are in a good age, between 23 and 30, not down the hill already, not a project. If you are a newly promoted side and you're normally used to win football games, and every loss was more or less a disaster last season, and you head then into the Premier League, and you can be motivated as you want and can deliver top performances by your standard as you want, but you will lose games. And if you dwell under it by losing games, and this sucks you down into sinksand, you have no chance to survive. So you have to make sure, not that we want to get used to lose football games. It's still, if we lose it, you have to take it personal, and you have to be embarrassed, and you have to be self-critical and speak about what you need to improve. But it's also important that a loss or a difficult spell, or sometimes even a difficult period of games, doesn't suck you into sink sand, because this is what happens to teams who are then relegated in the end. They panic and they lose their confidence and their calmness. And for that, exactly what you said, I wanted to sign characters who know this level, who know that on the top level you can also lose games, and how difficult it is, you can be punished, although sometimes you don't deserve it. But you have to keep going and show strength and steel, also in difficult surroundings, in difficult away grounds. This is why we just signed players who have delivered on Premier League level, on Bundesliga level, La Liga level, Ligue 1 level, in one of the top leagues. This is why we wanted to recruit in this way. So it's important that we have this mentality, and also to make sure that we keep this mentality, and we won't panic as a group, so that we are self-critical and always speak about we want to improve, but that we are also confident in our whole behavior, and believe me, so I will back my players. The players will back themselves. We have enough in order to win many points on this level.
And by the same token, you'll, in terms of the bigger picture, you'll go into this international break above the relegation zone. You've never been below it. Despite everything you say, is that significant in terms of the psychology of the group to just stay above that dotted line, or given everything that you've just said, does it not matter?
It's good. It's not a problem. It's more or less the other way around, but it would also not be the case with this group of players and what we do if, at some point you are perhaps 1 point below the line. Not that we want it. I would rather be in the Champions League positions anyhow, if I'm really honest. And I will never ever be in danger during the whole season, and we go and we flow easily through the 38 game days, and without being one time in any danger, we will maintain our status. If it works like this, would be a bit dreamland, but also sometimes dreamland is possible, and of course we want to do this. If you would have asked me before the season started, I wouldn't have expected this, that it works in this way. I would have expected, okay, there are also sometimes periods when you are perhaps below the line, and there's even a bit more pressure on you. So it's good that so far we are already over our point average, that we are over the line, but our mindset wouldn't change if there is sometimes a point anyhow we are below our average or below the line anyhow. Then of course the outside world will panic, but I'm 100% convinced that with this group anyhow we have enough in order to win as many points as possible. And of course if we can make it smooth and easy, I would prefer this, there's no doubt.
Hi Daniel.